You know, from grabbing coffee with just a tap of your phone to managing entire business accounts, these digital payment firms have totally changed how we deal with money. I mean, it's been this huge innovative boom. But with that crazy fast growth came a hidden risk, a crack in the system that left millions of pounds of customer money, well, dangerously exposed. Today, we're going to unpack the new rules designed to fix that, for good.
And when I say explosive growth, I really mean it. These numbers tell the whole story. If you go back to 2017, just 1% of UK consumers were using one of these firms. Now fast forward to today, and that number has jumped to 12%. We're talking about a 12-fold increase in under a decade. But that incredible success story? Yeah, it had a very serious vulnerability.
And this is the number that really set off the alarm bells. When some of these firms went under, investigators found that, on average, 65% of the customer money they were supposed to be protecting was just gone. Let that sink in. For every pound you thought was safe, only 35 pence was actually there. That's a gap that could seriously shake your trust in the entire sector.
So here's the crucial thing to understand. This wasn't necessarily about a bunch of bad actors trying to steal money. The real problem was that the rules just couldn't keep up. The framework that was meant to protect customer money was designed for a tiny, niche industry, not the multi-billion-pound pillar of the economy it had suddenly become.
Think about it like this. The original rules were kind of like traffic laws for a quiet country lane. But all of a sudden, that lane turned into a 6-lane superhighway packed with all these complex new vehicles and just a massive volume of traffic. The old signs and speed limits, they just weren't enough to keep everyone safe anymore. The system needed a fundamental upgrade.
So what's the fix? Well, that's where the UK's Financial Conduct Authority, or the FCA, comes into the picture. As the country's main financial watchdog, their job is to protect people like you and me and make sure the markets work. And they've stepped in with a whole new set of rules to rebuild this system from the ground up.
It's called the supplementary regime, and it's a direct answer to all those weaknesses we just talked about. It's basically a new, way more rigorous rulebook that completely changes how payment firms have to look after your money. The whole point is to make that shocking 65% shortfall number a thing of the past.
And this whole new regime is built on 3 really clear goals. First, and this is the big one, stop those shortfalls from ever happening in the first place. Second, if a firm does fail, make sure customer money can be found and returned as fast as possible. And third, give the FCA the tools they need to see problems brewing early on and step in before things get out of hand.
You know, this quote here is pretty telling. It shows the FCA didn't just dream these rules up in a vacuum. They actually worked with the industry. They got a ton of feedback, especially about how new audit rules might really burden the smaller guys, and they adjusted their plan. It shows they're trying to strike a balance between tough protection and the real-world challenges of running a business.
Okay, so that's the big picture. But what does this actually mean for these companies day to day? What do they have to start doing differently? Let's break down the 3 biggest, most significant new requirements.
First up, and this is really the foundation of the whole thing, is a process called safeguarding reconciliation. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but the idea is actually beautifully simple. It's just a mandatory, regular check to prove that the money a firm is supposed to have safe is actually there, safe and sound, down to the very last penny.
And here's how this 2-step mandate works. First, every single day there's an internal check. The firm has to go through its own books and figure out exactly what it owes to its customers. Then, and this is the crucial part, they do an external check. They have to match that internal number against the actual bank statements where the money is held. It's basically like balancing a checkbook for millions of pounds every single day to make sure what they think they have matches what they really have.
Okay, so that's the daily check. The next layer of protection is a brand new requirement for an annual safeguarding audit. And this is not the firm grading its own homework, no way. A qualified, independent auditor has to come in, go through the firm's systems and controls with a fine-tooth comb, and give a formal opinion. It's a vital layer of assurance for everyone involved.
But, hey, remember what we said about the FCA listening to smaller firms? This is where that comes into play. They introduced a really important exemption. If a company never holds more than 100,000 pounds of customer money at any one time, it doesn't have to do this expensive annual audit. This keeps the rules tough for the big players, but fair for the smallest businesses.
And the third big change? Well, this one is a total game changer for the regulator itself. Every single month, firms will now have to send a detailed data report directly to the FCA. This is a massive shift, moving the regulator from just reacting to problems to proactively watching the health of the entire sector in near real time.
You can just imagine how powerful this data is, right? It lets the FCA spot industry-wide trends, they can compare how one firm is doing against its rivals, and most importantly, they can identify firms that might be heading for trouble long before it's too late. It's the difference between firefighting and fire prevention.
Okay, so we've covered the why and the what of these new rules. Now let's get to the when. For any payment firms watching this, you are definitely going to want to have your calendars out for these next few dates.
So here we go. The whole new regime officially kicks in on May 7th, 2026. Just 2 months after that, in July, the first of those new monthly data reports will be due. Then, by May 2027, the first annual audit period will be over, and the final reports have to be in the FCA's hands by November of that year. It's a really clear, phased rollout.
And all of this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? This is a massive overhaul, directly tackling a critical weakness that was exposed by the industry's own incredible success. Through daily checks, independent audits, and proactive oversight, the goal is simple: to make sure that when you use a digital payment service, your money is as safe as it ought to be. The foundation has been rebuilt, which now leaves us wondering, will this new, stronger framework be the key that finally locks in consumer trust for good?